Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a undefeated fighter who's going to make his XFC debut in a few short weeks. He's the one and only Bad News, Jared Brown. What's going on, my man?
What's up, brother? How's it going?
Good, man. I mean, it is cold as balls in California, but it's a California cold as balls, right? It's nothing like what you guys are doing in Oklahoma at the current moment.
And yeah, man, like you said, it snowed like a foot last night, so we're pretty much all stuck inside. Like I said, Snowvid-19 up here. Oklahomans do not handle the snow well, so we're locked inside, but it could be worse, you know? It could be worse. So
It could always be worse, but that is a hashtag verbal gem that you just expounded on the party people here. Snowvid-19. Holy shit, that's marketing genius. I mean, again, for people that were negatively affected by COVID-19, again, our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with you. But, you know, that's good.
That's just what it is, you know. We, like I said, the Oklahomans, we can handle the wind and the rain and the tornadoes, but when it snows, dude, run to the grocery store, get your bread and milk, because you're not going anywhere. You're stuck.
Oof, my goodness. I mean, Don McGuire of the Fighter's Voice says it's below 7 here. That means, like, I would have got out like 47 degrees ago. Like, that fucking...
Yeah.
I'm
Dude,
sorry.
If it gets below freezing here, and it's always wet, Oklahoma's not super humid, but it gets pretty humid here. So anytime it gets below freezing, it's horrible. And of course, the wind, you know, it's in our state song. The wind comes sweeping down the plain, so it's always windy here, and that's just the way it goes. Though, you know, you just got to deal with it till summer comes. So.
Yeah, I mean, how are those Oklahoma summers? Because obviously, there's a lot of, I mean, tough, salt of the earth people is what I know, you know, Oklahomans for, but also badass wrestlers, you know, like some
For
of
sure.
the, to me, right? If Europe and Russia and whatever, Dagestan, that Russian Federation, is the kind of pinnacle of that region of the world in terms of wrestling, well, for my money, you know, from the Midwest and you know, Southwest all the way up into the Eastern Seaboard is what this country is best export in terms of wrestling. That's it. You know, from Oklahoma kind of on up, that's where you get the most elite of the elite wrestlers that our country has ever kind of gifted to the world.
Yeah, you know, obviously I'm biased. I live in Stillwater, you know, home of Oklahoma State University, the, you know, greatest wrestling program of all time. So I'm definitely biased, and I'm a Pokes fan. Go Pokes all day, every day. So, you know, of course I'm going to side with that. That's a great statement. I agree 100%.
That's tremendous.
Yeah, I love it. You'll probably make some people mad though down in Texas and Florida and California, maybe even in Pennsylvania. One of my main training partners is from PA, and we have to get into it all the time about where the real best wrestling state is.
So California, you know, where I grew up, just to kind of give you a little bit of a backstory, when I was going to Inglewood High in Inglewood, California, yes, and I still take offense to it when people are like, Inglewood always up to no good, because you hear it in vernacular, you hear it in rap songs and shit like that. I'm like, wait, I'm good. There's so many, like, not just athletes, like Daniel Ferris, who is D-Smoke, who won like a competition on Netflix of rapping. I graduated in his same class. Lawrence Jackson, who played for the Seahawks and the Detroit Lions and set all types of records at USC. He was in my graduating class, right, back in 2003. And then there's a lot of, you know, doctors, lawyers, working people, health, fathers and mothers, where again, those people didn't grow up with their fathers or their mothers and everything, and they're outstanding parents in themselves. So I'm like, fuck off, man. Inglewood is good. Inglewood is
Man, you
good.
can't. Yeah, it's you can't get away with the stigma nowadays. People just they have stereotypes. You just sometimes you just got to eat them and deal with them.
Or just like side swap that shit. Just like that
Yeah.
drink meme. Like just
Hmm.
do one of
For
those
sure.
numbers. And
For sure.
Don McGuire says they're cutting off power and roaming blackouts. Holy hell! I mean, we have rolling blackouts here in California, but that's because like some asshole is like overcharging his Tesla or something like that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Not too many Teslas in Oklahoma. Everybody still thinks we ride horse and buggy out here.
oh, I
So,
mean,
like
you're
I said, with the stigmas, people, I swear, I've met people before that are like, "Oh, you're from Oklahoma, so you just ride a horse around everywhere." You're like, "No, we got cars a few years back, so it's all
yeah,
good."
yeah. I mean, that's weird. And Don says, I'm in Missouri, home of Rafael Lovato Jr. So shout out to the former Bellator world champion. Yeah. So again, I mean, with like a strong wrestling region and pedigree that Oklahoma has, and specifically Stillwater, where you're at, how did you get into combat sports? Was it via wrestling?
I had a little bit of a wrestling background, but my main focus when I was in school was football. I played football my whole entire life, and so it was really the competition aspect for me. I had some opportunities to play some college football and stuff, and passed them up for various reasons. I thought I wanted to do something else with my life. Turns out a few years later, I just was sick for the competition again. I feel like once you're a competitor, it's just kind of ingrained in your DNA, and you don't really know anything else. That's what I did my whole life, was traveling to tournaments or going to play you go into practice every day and then going to play games and stuff like that. And when you love something like that, you just can't give it up. And it's something that sticks with you forever. And so a couple years into college, I was hungry for it. I didn't know what it was that I wanted. So I found a mixed martial arts gym here in Stillwater. Elite Combat Systems, my home gym. Shout out to my boys at Elite Combat Systems. My coach Liddell Elliott, he's the goat. He's unknown, but he's the goat. So I'm excited to put him on that. Anyways, uh, so yeah, just being in school and stuff, something was missing from my life, and it was that competition. And as soon as I started training again, I knew I was where I needed to be at. About a year later or so, dropped out of school to pursue it full time. Luckily, my coach Liddell, he supports me in every way. So he gave me a job at the gym, told me that I could work for my dues, and so I cleaned mats and worked for my dues for the longest time, and eventually worked my way up to where I'm an instructor there now and stuff like that. So it's my full time job. I don't do anything else. There's nothing else that I do other than train and instruct full time. So I love it. Martial arts is my life. I'm a martial artist too. So uh, I just, like we talked about earlier with stigmas. There's stigmas around being a fighter and stuff like that. And I think that's one thing that MMA has really hurt in the martial arts community, is that respect and the desire to learn and to be a learner forever. As a martial artist, I feel like you always need to be pursuing that and be respectful. And so I pride myself as being a martial artist first and a fighter second.
That's tremendous. And I mean, in terms of martial artists, and having that background, none other than black belt Jackie Gone, friend of the show, 100%, and she's battling some health issues. So just all the positivity to her and her
Love
family.
you
And
thinking
she,
about you, Jackie.
absolutely. I mean, but she's kicking ass. I mean, it got really, really fucking dire. But like, she's literally like throwing kicks in her living room with her kids and everything. So
That's
again,
awesome.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Martial artists. Martial artists always find a way. They always find a way. You don't need a gym. If you got your body in working order, you can figure it out. And if you don't have a working body, then you got a working mind. So
Yeah.
you're always training.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I remember when I first started jujitsu, there was a gentleman who, I mean, was had his entire body ravaged, because of burns, right? So he maybe had just stubs, right? I mean, one eye because everything was burnt and whatever. No legs, but he was before his accident had I mean, he was a top wrestler, right? And you think of, oh, like, oh. that jiu-jitsu kind of like mentality. You're looking for white. If you're a white belt, you're looking for other white belt.
Yeah,
Like whatever.
for
So
sure.
he's a white belt, but I mean, with this tremendous wrestling pedigree, and good lord, his top pressure. Oh my god, it was almost like a bear. Like I could not get around him. I have all of my limbs, thankfully, and whatever. But again, that will to succeed, that will to thrive, regardless of any and all circumstances, physical, mental, what have you. It's just incredible. And this guy would literally like toss me around. Just, you know, that's
Yeah,
just
for
what
sure.
happened.
For sure. Yeah, I think people are just an accumulation of, how they react to things. So you have the option of, reacting negatively or positively or to stop or to keep going. And so it's all up to you at the end of the day. Your decisions only affect yourself. So, it may briefly affect the people around you, but for the most part, your decisions 100% just affect yourself and only affect your future. So, that's the kind of mentality I try to take into everything is I'm going to do the best that I can because it's only myself that I'm hurting if I don't.
No, 1,000%. And Jackie says thank you. No, absolutely. Our just all types of positivity to you and your family, and you're gonna kick this thing's ass. So it is what it is. That's what it is. That this thing is gonna whatever it's done to you, you're gonna kick it like literally 800 times harder than it's kicked you. So keep on kicking,
For sure.
Hermana. Keep on kicking.
For sure.
Now, obviously, you coming from an athletic background, right? Football. Was it kind of a weird transition just to do like regular life stuff? Because again, like you said, what brought you into MMA and combat sports was the competition, right? So where were you in terms of your mindset, in terms of your soul, once you stepped off of the gridiron, when you took the pads off and you kind of had to readjust to normal life, before you found MMA? Like, where were you at mentally, spiritually, in your life at that point?
Um, well, I started school at Oklahoma State University, and so I was really like took all that energy and tried to focus it on school for a while. And I have never been uh, an academic, and to say, I've never been great at doing school. It's not that I'm unintelligent or anything like that. I'm a smart guy. I can figure it out. But it was the I didn't have the desire to do it. When it comes to college, college is a full-time job, so it's something you got to commit yourself to. And they're just the passion wasn't there, and I know myself well enough to where if I'm doing something that I'm not passionate about it, I gotta figure it out because it quickly makes you unhappy. Very very quickly you become unhappy, and so it was more of just and like I said, I had a little bit of I have a wrestling background, so it's not that I hadn't ever trained, a solo sport before. So I knew what it took whenever I started training. And, I think more than anything, it was just, I just fell in love with it. And it was something that I could do. I knew if I trained as hard as I could, if I did everything that I needed to do, I could be successful in it because I knew that I was a great athlete and I knew that I was also a great learner on top of it. And so I was just excited to be able to immerse myself in something that I was passionate about. So
No,
I think other than that, football football was one of those things that I played football from the time I was in like second grade, from the time they allow you to sign up for Pee Wee football. And I was a little burnt out on it at the time. We had a rough senior year. We had a rough senior season and stuff. And um, I just I didn't know if I wanted to go play, football at a small school. I knew I wasn't going to be an NFL football player. I just wasn't big enough, wasn't fast enough. So you got to find something else. You got to find something else to take that energy towards. Like I said, you gotta you gotta figure out different channels. If you just have one mindset, then it's easy to get lost in things and it's easy to get down on yourself. So just finding something different. It was just finding something different. And once I found it, I just hit it 100% head forward. So
no, 100%. Now, obviously, there were other, avenues that you could go by, and especially when you think about like, being in Stillwater around, the university, there's probably ex football players, there's probably ex, basketball players from the university, littered around, that you could have maybe parlayed yourself into those deals. But what was it about
For sure.
like MMA that kind of brought you into it? Yeah, I mean, you could even put that to business where, you know, there's a
Yeah.
lot of former athletes that are, I mean, killer podcasters,
Yeah.
killer business people. They, wholesale order and all that jazz. So, like, what was it? Did you see like MMA kind of coming
Yeah.
up?
I knew I've maybe a little bit always been a little bit of a troublemaker, never shied away from a fight. And so I knew that there had to be a better avenue to use that energy towards, not just fighting, on the strip here in Stillwater or, in somebody's backyard or something like that. And so, I figured if I was going to be fighting, I may as well do it the right way, not get in trouble for it. So I think that I always knew I was a fighter, I think I always knew that I was a fighter, and I just needed a healthier outlet to take that out in, and not necessarily uh, just, drunken brawls or whatever you might call them. So I think that's a little bit of what it was. Other than that, I don't really know. I guess, I just was lucky enough to walk into my academy that I train at. I guess when I walked in there, I didn't have the goals of being a professional fighter in mind at the time, but quickly I figured that out, that that's what I wanted to do, So I think that's what it boils down to. Always been a fighter though. Always been a fighter.
So, I mean, for those that aren't in Stillwater, right? You mentioned the strip, right? And I think every town, small or big, has or at least what I think is the connotation of the strip you're deciding. So, for those that aren't, necessarily abreast of what happens in the strip of Stillwater, describe to me the scene, especially when you were coming up.
Well, so as a college town, so it's a crazy area. It's just the main. It's like I don't know, maybe a quarter mile long strip in town that has bars on each side of it, and it's the place where all the college kids congregate on the weekends and a couple of weekdays a week. And I was actually a bouncer. I was a front door guy for a little bit at probably the busiest bar in Stillwater, and that was fun. That was fun for sure. It was a stressful job, but it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and it's it's a madhouse. There's what, like 30,000 kids that go to Oklahoma State, so you can imagine how busy that quarter mile gets on a weekend, and it gets a little out of hand every once in a while. So
And
it's bananas.
it's just a quarter mile. Like that's it.
Yeah, yeah. I can't. It can be longer than a quarter mile. It's not very long, but the bars are, stack to stack, just like anywhere else downtown that you would go to a bar to. So it's a crazy place. It's fun, on game days and stuff like that. Stillwater gets pretty wild on game days and stuff like that. So if you want to stay out of trouble, it's a good place to avoid.
Okay. Now, I
Yeah.
mean, I've heard, again, being a wrestling fan, like when the Road Warriors, right, Hawk and Animal, were bouncers at Grandma B's in downtown Minneapolis, right, and sometimes at First Avenue, where Princess Club, right, they had this like a bit of tripwire, right, so they would try and shove patrons out and try to have them hit the tripwire, and the game was it would essentially have them hit the tripwire and see how many times they tumbled over, and whoever had
Wow.
their drunken patron, uh, tumble the most, that's who won the contest of the night, right? And we're talking like not just the Road Warriors, we're talking Rick Rude, like all of those, like who became like Hall of Fame level wrestlers, in the '80s and
Yeah.
what have you. So, I mean, things that you can legally talk about it, right? Do you have a favorite bouncer story?
Um. Uh, Try not to get myself in trouble here. uh, we live in the day and age of lawsuits and stuff too.
Yeah,
So
that's what I said. Like, not
yeah.
being a lawsuit. Are there anything you
Um.
can share? If not, we'll pivot.
I got stories for sure. You know, we had a time where this girl, it was like Dad's Day in Stillwater. I don't know if I should tell this. it was like Dad's Day in Stillwater, so all of the all the kids bring their dads, and this girl tried to use our fake ID, and it's like it's against the law if a bouncer lets somebody in with a fake ID. It's on if the police find out whatever. So I'm like, I'm not gonna lose my job over this deal. And her dad like just started this yelling match kind of deal with me and stuff. And anyways, it ended up being taken outside, and it got a little physical and stuff. But I can't go into too many details.
Well, you said it got physical, right? So we're going to go with Olivia Newton-John of Grease fame and Xanadu. It got that physical. You guys ended up erupting in a dance party all across all across the strip in Stillwater. That's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, being a bouncer was just one of those jobs that I ended up only quitting the job because I didn't want to get hurt. Whenever I was like starting to train for fights and stuff, I was like, man, this is a good way to blow out a knee or an ACL or break a hand or an elbow or something. So this is not worth it. One of those situations where you had to look at it and be like, it was fun. It's fun having a job at the bars where all your friends are hanging out and stuff at, but what are you giving up for it? If you break your ankle or somebody pushes you, to the ground and your elbow bursts open or something, what's the point? So.
That's it. Exactly. And Pablo Jenkins over on YouTube saying bad news.
Yes, sir.
Yes, there it is. Now, so your first day at the gym, were there any things like kind of preconceived notions like, hey, I'm an athlete, this might, maybe, and a bouncer, right? Like maybe these things I have a bit of a concept of. Maybe I'll do well, right? And then, like, were there things that you naturally gravitated to in terms of like ability?
I think one thing that surprised me the most was my ability to pick up stand up. I like to say that I'm a grappler by trade, but I'm a striker by nature, and so I really became keen to the striking side of things, and quickly became a boxing instructor at my academy. And I think that was the best part of it. Once I figured out that because I started in jiu-jitsu, and I really focused on jiu-jitsu for the longest time. But when I figured out the striking aspect of it, boy, I just took off with it. I loved it. I loved the striking, and I liked watching exciting strikers. And Anderson Silva was probably like one of my biggest inspirations. And so watching the way he moved and stuff like that, and it was just, that was probably the most surprising part of it for me. Was I knew that the grappling part of it I would have a good grasp on with a wrestling background. It's very helpful to start jiu-jitsu with a wrestling background. You know how to put your weight on somebody, how to use your hips, you understand the concepts of how to win in a scramble and stuff like that, which was great. But yeah, when I got into boxing and kickboxing, I just took to it like a dog on peanut butter. I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. And so that's really what I think is probably my best quality at this point. I carry a lot of power in both hands and my legs. And so it's exciting to know that I'm not necessarily worried about the takedown. The very first fight I took, I was 0-0, no fights, no boxing fights, no kickboxing fights, just a couple of jiu-jitsu tournaments. I fought a college wrestler with about 4 or 5 fights under his belt, and submitted him. But on the feet, I was just tuning him up on the feet, and it was my first fight ever. And so that was probably the most exciting thing for me, is as I'm not worried about it going to the ground, and I definitely want it on the feet. So yeah, that was probably the best part.
So, I mean, how long from when you first started at the gym at Elevated to your first fight? What was the journey? How much time in between was the two events?
Well, luckily I have, like I said, my coach Liddell Elliott, my head instructor, my Sifu, Liddell Elliott. Luckily, he's one of those guys that isn't just looking to pump out 50 amateur fighters and just try to get as many fights as you can. He's the type of guy that wants to make sure you're ready when you get in there. And so I took about 5 years of training before I took my first MMA fight, and luckily that was him, all him, 100%. That was his advice. that's what he recommended I do, is make sure that I was ready to go. He's like, I think that he saw the potential in me and didn't want me to rush into anything as well. And that was great. But also, he just wasn't one of those guys that tries to keep customers around just because they want to fight. You know, we get guys that walk in all the time that want to fight, and after 3 months of training, when they don't have an MMA fight, you know, they get a little bad attitude, and they want to go somewhere where they'll get a fight, and next thing you know, they're 0-3 or something like that, and you know, and then their careers downhill from there. And nowadays, even in the amateur circuit, it's so important to have a good record, and it's so important to be prepared. You know, everybody's a savage nowadays. It's not like way back in the day where guys just off the streets were coming in to fight. You know, I haven't fought. I think that's one thing that I really pride myself on, is I haven't had one single easy fight as an amateur. I've had 2 very high level college wrestlers that I fought, and I also have had a high level kickboxer that I fought. I mean, every single one of the guys that I fought has either come off a college wrestling career or has an extensive kickboxing background. And so to me, that just gives me more confidence in myself that, you know, I've already had the hard fights. You know, they already tried to use me as a stepping stone, and guess what? Didn't work. So, you know, it doesn't worry about me anymore. But like I said, that's all thanks to my coach Liddell. And you know, he told me, he's like, train, get ready, make sure you're ready, make sure you're comfortable everywhere, and then we'll get you a fight, and then you'll be able to do whatever you want to do, man. But he's like, don't rush in there. He's like, what happens? You get beat, then your confidence starts to dwindle, all types of stuff. He's like, we're gonna set you up to win for sure. So luckily he did. So
Yeah, you know, and that's one of the things, you know, covering the sport, being a fan of the sport, you know, there's no right way to do this, right? Or, you know, you could be, you know, somebody that comes from an, you know, like impressive athletic background, such as yourself, you know, and go on a tear, right? Or you could be somebody that started from scratch at a particular gym with like no name coaches, not saying no name, but like, you know, the pop culture lexicon don't know, you know, it's not a Jackson Wink or whatever, right? And you can start from the ground up and do it. You could be like undefeated in your, you know, amateur career and then go pro and then go on a skid. Or you could be, you know, undefeated all the way through. Like there's so many different components. You could be a striker, grappler. Sure. We just saw on Saturday, right, with UFC 258, where we saw literally, God, I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, but
yeah, I forgot his name too. But 7-time ADCC champion.
Yeah, got choked out by a purple belt.
Yeah, like, yeah, one straight purple belt. But that's MMA, man. It's not a jiu-jitsu. You know, it's not a jiu-jitsu tournament. That's just you gotta be well rounded. And that dude gassed out. You know, I think he cut a lot of weight, and that's one of the biggest issues in MMA right now. I think is people cut so much weight, and you say what you want about it, you know, one way or the other, everybody's got to walk in the cages. Everyone pretty much walks in the cage at the same weight. Everybody's got to make the weight, so whatever. But, you know, why cut 30 pounds? That's just crazy to me. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, Noah Latshaw says, soon to be champ right here. Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Noah, for chiming in on YouTube. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast. I'll be glad you did. I'm just saying. But and that's with everyone here. So no, but I think it's kind of fun to kind of be able to figure out different components, right? And you know, before there was an amateur circuit, you know, we're talking like I just went like on Tapology in a wormhole, right? And looking at like a Tapology record of like a Josh Barnett or a Dan the Beast 7. Dan the Beast 7 has wins in the triple digits. Now, there's only like maybe 4 or 5 names in the 101 wins or whatever that people know, but still 101, you know, wins, and you know, so it's kind of crazy. There wasn't an amateur scene when a lot of these guys, and even girls, you know, into the mid 2000s, you know, didn't have an amateur scene to, you know, ply their trade. They just had to go in there. And sometimes when you have like a lopsided record, it's because you just got into a fight with like a fight every weekend. Yeah,
for sure. And nowadays it's so competitive that record matters, especially when you hit the pros. You know, it matters so much. You know, 2, 3, 4 losses, and it's you're digging yourself out a hole at that point. You know, so and that's like the Mayweather effect. Everybody wants to be undefeated nowadays, but it's just not. everybody loses at some point, for the most
Yeah,
part.
which I mean, you're an undefeated fighter right now, right?
Yeah.
So getting into your debut with XFC, all right, and shout out to that show. It's taking place in Shawnee, Oklahoma. But I mean, does that even factor into the game plan, or you just like whatevs? Like I just want to win.
I mean, we're definitely excited to have a fight with a promotion like XFC. All my fights have been with outstanding promotions. I started out in Tough Enough and then fought for LFA and now fight for XFC. And so I think that's another great thing about my journey is I've only fought on big stages. My first fight was in front of like a couple thousand people, and I just took to it. Like again, that's part of being a competitor my whole life. I think I think what surprised my coach the most was how calm I was. He expected me to have the nerves and to, be a little flustered with the amount of people that were there and it being my first fight and off. But man, I just don't get nervous like that. I think it's because I take a GSP approach to my training where I'm always ready. I don't take months off in between fights, and I train every single day. I train just as hard yesterday as I do today, and I'll train just as hard tomorrow. And so it doesn't matter if I fight today, I'll train tomorrow. It doesn't matter if I'm fighting 6 months from now, I'm still training today. So, I think that's where my confidence comes from, is just mainly knowing that I'm ready and knowing that I train with the best martial artists in the world, in my opinion. My coach has 40 plus years of experience in martial arts. And so he's a real professional martial artist. I don't want to say anything negative about anybody else out there, but there's a lot of guys that are trainers and coaches that, literally probably have less than 10 years of experience in martial arts. And so there's a lot of information that they're not giving because they don't have. And luckily I have a guy like Liddell in my corner who can give me, traditional stuff. He can give me new stuff. He can give me everything in between, and it's great. So, and we have a very different outlook on our training and stuff like that as well. So, so back to the XFC question. To me, XFC is just another big stage for me to perform on. It's another big stage for me to go get a huge win, hopefully a knockout. So that's what'll happen, March 27th. So it'll be good. And luckily it's a promotion that, wants to keep growing. And so I'm looking for opportunities to become, the face of their 145-pound division, if not the whole promotion. So I'm the type of guy you can build anything around. So, put me out there. I'm excited.
No, and I think that's awesome. That's a championship level, mentality that you inhibit because again, I love outliers, right? These things or what have you. Some people that are innately just have this like kind of winning mindset and they're able to apply it, right? I mean, you look no further than Conor McGregor, a guy that was like, of course, not everything that Conor's done is awesome. There's a lot of things
For
that he
sure.
has, right? But I mean, nobody's skeleton. Nobody is sand skeletons in their respective closets, right? But I mean, when you look at somebody that, I mean, he doesn't have to fight, right? And I look at like high level boxers, right? When they get paid like $25 million, some
Yeah.
25-year-old kid, that signed a deal with like DAZN or some whatever, $25 million. Like I would probably be doing this show from like a deserted island for
Yeah,
probably
definitely.
half of that, So you know
Yeah.
the fact that somebody would want to fight, despite all of the riches and all of the success that most people will put on them and bestow on them, you still want to fight. But that's
Yeah.
kind of
And
you.
I think if you're doing it for the money, you're not going to make it to that point anyways. I think that the money is a product of your mindset that you already have, not a prerequisite for a good mindset. So if you're doing it for the money, then you're probably not going to make it to that level anyways. I think the money does make it is a distraction for sure. No, I don't think that motivated Connor, would be the same if he had $25 million in his bank account or whatever. But, also I think he still could be the fighter that he was if he, just chooses to be. It's just a matter of focus, in my opinion. So some people can
Yes.
focus, some people can't. It's just a matter of how what your will is. If you have the will to do anything, you can do it. You just have to stick your mind to it.
I know, 100%. Which, speaking of mindsets and what have you, Nate Ran of Podium Sports. Shout out to Nate and Podium. But he says, how did you come up with the nickname Bad News?
So that's another came from football. I was a strong safety, so I was the guy floating around in the backfield just looking for somebody's head to take off. And so our announcer of our football team came up with that name probably, oh boy, almost 10 years ago. So I've had that nickname for a long time. So it came from football originally because I was
That,
a headhunter.
ooh, that is some bad news for anybody that has a head that's on the opposite team, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I like the violence. It doesn't bother me one bit. So but it's bad news for whoever's got to be in front of me.
Yeah, which is, it's a bit of a dichotomy, and this is what I love to get it figured out, where, different people have different whys for doing the same thing, right? So, the fact that you are, I mean, you're pretty even keeled, even tempered, but like once that cage door closes, you become that guy. Once you, put that helmet on, you were that guy, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's a,
It's
it's a, oh, good.
it's always there. It's always there. It's the ability to be able to control yourself that makes great fighters from legendary fighters. And I don't want to be great. I want to be legendary. So you have to learn to control your mind and control yourself to be able to be successful in anything in life. And so when you learn to control that, your whole world opens up. And so that's one thing that I think that martial arts helped me with, off the bat. Like I said, I was a little bit of a knucklehead growing up, and so I was pretty quick tempered when I was younger, and so that's one thing the martial arts is. It's gives you the confidence to know that I don't have to be that guy that snaps, or that has to be the fire in any type of situation. I can let it roll off my shoulders, and if I need to, I can switch it on, and I'm okay either way. And so when I get in the cage, it's not a matter of, okay, now it's time to turn it on. It's that focus is there, and I know that dog is in me one way or the other. So I know that whenever it comes down to it, it's gonna be there. It's already there. So you know.
And that gives you, I mean, that's a pretty strong, mentality and control of emotions, because we've seen in many times where our sport kind of gets, a black eye by particular people doing bad things, right? And I won't mention the people, but like, like domestic stuff, like just ugly, ugly things. There's fights in bars, all that jazz, right? And the fact that you're able to kind of control both sides of your personality and knowing when and when not to, apply those things and those tactics, that's a very strong trait that, I mean, some don't have.
What like again, it goes back to my team. I have people around me that you know don't fluff me up and don't pat me on the butt just because I'm there, and they're honest with me. They're telling me, hey, what you're doing's wrong, or hey, what you're doing's right. And that's just the way it goes. And I think a lot of those guys, like you were saying, that are in trouble, they just don't have people around them that are honest with them. And if they don't have the ability to have people around them that are honest with them, then that's a personality issue. That doesn't have anything, that's nothing anybody else could fix. So lucky for me, I have good people around me, and I have the wherewithal to listen to them. And so, if you're not, that's another great thing about being a lifetime athlete, is you learn how to be coachable. And so if you're not coachable, what are you doing? If you're not willing to learn, I've always said, a lesson learned and not needed is better than a lesson not learned. If
Mhm.
somebody gives me some information and it turns out I didn't need that information, that's great. But I'd much rather get that information than to not receive information that maybe could have helped me out. And so I have a great team around me. I have great people around me who are honest with me, and don't let me walk around like the cock in the hen house. So it's nice. It's great. And luckily I'm smart enough to listen to them. So
That's, I know, absolutely. many people say, well, not many people, but I heard it once, and I think it applies. Where a great leader is also somebody that can show that they can follow when the time is right and lead when needed, right? And having that
For sure.
duality, that's kind of the slice of life, and especially as a lifelong athlete, to be able to perform at a as top of level as your body can exude, like that's incredible because some people they'll just like, I'm done with it, I don't, like my
Yeah,
time is over. But like, you are somebody that's still growing in your mentality, still young in your mindset, even though you've expounded as well as been deposited some very worthwhile information. You're like, bring it on, just like the fight, with knowledge and information. You're like, bring it on. Let's go.
for sure. For sure. I'm a JKD guy. We're a JKD gym. We're, directly, our lineage is directly under Bruce Lee. So, we take a lot of that philosophy and stuff with us. It's pretty great. And so I'm just lucky to be where I'm at, to be honest with you. I don't think that I'd be in the position that I would be in if I was anywhere else. So, you know, I'm blessed 100%. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. I believe in destiny, and, I'm destined to be legendary, and I'm destined to bring the people that taught me how to be like that up with me. So I'm excited to do that.
Well, somebody also who's excited is again Nate Wren. He says, "I'm looking forward to seeing Bad News Jared Brown fight soon. He reminds me of one of the Hanson brothers from Slapshot. He has one great attitude, and this is a very entertaining interview. More for Jared than for me, but I appreciate that. That's amazing.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are you familiar with the Slapshot, the movie?
A little bit, but
Okay,
probably not as
check
familiar
check,
as.
check it out. It might
Yeah,
be good. It might be
will
good.
do. I'll check it out.
So obviously, and we kind of touched on it a bit about like the weight cutting, right? And you're in the midst of a weight cut, right? But
Well,
to me,
no, I'm
are,
not
are
in
you
the.
not?
So I don't have to. Like I said, I'm always ready. I'm always a week out from being able to fight. All I need is somebody to tell me that I'm fighting. I stay hydrated, my weight stays low. I'm always in shape. There's none of this, I gotta have a 6 week camp. Oh, I gotta have an 8 week camp. Oh, I gotta lose 20 pounds before I start my weight cut. I don't get fat. I don't get out of shape. It's none. I'm ready 24/7, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter. So my weight cut starts a week before the fight whenever I start my water loading and all that stuff, and I do a normal weight cut, and there's no preparing for it. There's no having to go on a special diet. I'm at batting 100% all the time. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just wanted to
No,
make
that's
that clear
amazing
that,
because
yeah.
you kind of answered it for me because I my personal kind of ideology behind weight cuts, especially as it stands here in kind of North America, Canada does something different, Mexico does something different, but here in the States, right, where I think in the quest for legitimacy, right, to be essentially indoctrinated by any given state athletic commission, right? We kind of barred from wrestling. We kind of
For
barred
sure.
from boxing, that weight cutting. And I don't think, especially when you're not the actual weight when you step in, like, what's the point in having a 145-pound fight and your guys are 170 by the time you step into the cage? Like, that,
a
to me,
hundred
it doesn't
percent.
make sense. It doesn't make
And if
sense.
both guys are getting in the cage at 170, why not just fight at 170? That's like, why not just do the hydration test? Have guys just fight at their normal weight classes. You would get better fights. You'd get better fights. The guys would stay healthier. You would have less, injuries and, all types of stuff. It just seems better for everyone. But like you said, it's a culture of the sport at this point, and for it to change, it would take something dramatic. So, you know.
So I mean, here's the thing. I'm out in California, and there's been a lot of things that the state athletic commission that have done that are squirrely. But one thing that obviously pre-COVID and everything, um, I think it was like late 2018, early 2019, where much like ONE FC over in Asia, doing the hydration tests, right?
Yeah, it's
Doing
excellent.
cognitive ability tests, because that's the other thing about it, right? Weight cutting, especially an extreme weight cut. And it's funny when you hear, fighters talk about, man, I cut 30 pounds in 15 days and whatever. Well, that's water that you're removing from your brain and your body and everything like that, and
Oh, it messes
asking.
up your hormones and stuff too, man. Like,
Yes.
man, I know people that have cut weight their whole life and they have testosterone issues and all types of stuff now, and they 100% say it's from cutting weight their whole life and stuff. So I just think it's the most unhealthiest, silly, most ridiculous part about the sport. I don't. It doesn't. Cutting weight doesn't bother me. It's not that I think it's hard or that I can't do it or anything like that. I just think that what's the point of it? It just seems like such a pageantry thing to cut weight and be on the scale and then to just put the weight back on right afterwards, and then both guys are still the same size. It's just I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents about it.
No, I mean, I agree. And I think having these conversations. That's why, because most people might not know that there's a life beyond just weight cutting. It might be something that the coach told them to do, and they've been doing whatever, and they don't even question, because they're so in that kind of horse with the blinders. I'm gonna fight whatever I have to do to fight. I'm going to do, but never really question the process. And it's just like,
Yeah,
well, that to me, it can be a means to an end when you like. Again, your relationship with your coach and trainers and everything like that, it needs to be on point, because the fact of the matter is you're entrusting somebody's game plan, somebody's knowledge, kind of parlayed onto you to save your life, right? Because at any
yeah,
given moment, your life could end. Now, it has happened few and far between, but that has happened, right? And
yeah,
that's what could happen.
for
So
sure.
when,
Lucky for me too, I have my nutritionist and my weight cutting coach, Mountain High Fitness and Performance. They live like 5 minutes from me, and they're under Lockhart and Leith. So luckily I have the best in the business help me cut weight and put in weight and stuff back on and handle my nutrition day to day. So it's not really that it's an issue for me. It's not like that I'm dreading the weight cut or anything like that. It just seems like you know, if we were both 45ers, if we let's just agree to walk in the cage at 165 or whatever, 165, 170, and then
oh,
just forgo the weight cut.
yeah, or just, yeah, or I mean, if that's what it says on the marquee, 145, then we were fighting at 145. And if if you can't make that weight, again, like you said, different weight class altogether is what you should be competing at.
Definitely. And you see it a lot in the UFC when guys move up a weight class, they're so much more successful. They're so much more successful. So, what are you really, for the guys that are cutting 30 pounds out there, what are you really gaining from that? If you're worried about being the bigger guy in the fight, you're not training hard enough. 5, 6, 7 pounds. You think that's going to be the difference in the fight? You're kidding yourself every single time. So
Yes, and doing that dramatic weight loss in such a short time also opens up the susceptibility to getting knocked out. It, you
definitely
know,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
Especially if you're fighting me, because you're already susceptible to getting knocked out either way. So you definitely don't
Ooh.
want to be coming off a hard weight cut. I promise that. And I'm putting a pace on you too. So that's another great thing about not cutting a ton of weight is I put a pace on for sure. So
I mean, and Jackie Goodis says, I agree. Great attitude, a true martial arts mentality, growth, being thankful, and willing to listen. That's it.
thanks, Jackie.
Shout out to you, Jackie. Now, over on Twitch, you are a newbie. It says, have you ever pooped the pants? I poop my pants all the time, and I have pooped the pants my entire life. I hope you get help with that. He says, so embarrassing, especially while training, and poops his pants. Well, assuming it's a he. If it's a she, also sorry, or transgender, whichever you identify with. Awesome. But I hope you get out
No,
of
I
that
haven't
soon.
pooped my pants since I was a baby, so sorry.
Okay, so here's the thing. You want to know who decided to eat a burrito coming from work, heading on their way to jujitsu class? This guy, right? Just like a steak burrito. I
Dang.
was just like, I'm so
Yeah.
hungry. I'm gonna like just grab something on the way. In the 20 minutes, whatever, it'll dissolve. Blah blah blah, and I can go train. An hour and a half of jujitsu. Well, guess what? We were learning that day.
Neon belly.
Yes, sir. 100%. 100%. And the sounds that a particular orifice was making would make any orchestra proud. I mean, it was a tuba
Wow.
baritone. Yeah, it was. And my poor wife, she was standing on the benches like downwind, and it was just like, yeah, it wasn't good. So for you, good sir,
Wow.
that that's my deal. So but kudos to you
Wow.
for not pooping your pants. I might have had a momentary lapse of weakness.
Luckily for me, I don't have to, drive in California, so my trips are pretty short. So
Oh, there you go.
that's a
There you
bit
go.
that's a benefit of taking horse and buggy everywhere here in Oklahoma.
um, and Noah Latshaw says Mountain High Performance.
Yeah, he's gonna plug himself on this, I guess. Yeah, shout out
Okay.
to Mountain High Performance. Yeah, that's my nutritionist, weight cutting coach, all that good stuff. So he's a goober, but he's a good
Hey,
guy. He's good at
shout
what
out.
he does. Yeah,
Absolutely. Shout out to Noah. We'll do it, man. I'm
yeah,
not. I'm not against shameless self promotion. I might do a smidge myself. So
yeah.
Noah and Mountain High Performance, go ahead and follow their social media channels and what have you, and see what the hell they're doing, and to see
Yep,
what Bad News does to get ready for his fights, which
for sure.
has yielded him an undefeated record up to this point.
Yep, yeah. Honestly, I couldn't do it without him. So he helps me. He helps me so much. Just his knowledge and his ability to make me feel 1,000% when I get in the cage that's all him. So him and my girlfriend as well. My girlfriend, she's great at it too. She's actually the hands-on part of it. So he does all of the behind the scenes stuff, and she actually hooks it up with the shakes and the food and stuff like that. So they work pretty good as a team. She's
Shout
a
out.
Yeah, she's a smart cookie. She just graduated from Oklahoma State with her microbiology degree and is planning on going to med school and stuff. So I got the best people around me. Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best. Now, you're the boy refutes it. He's like, yeah, I can't handle it when I wrestle. My colon can't handle it, and he says he doesn't believe you, but he does respect your ability not to shit your pants. Which,
Thanks.
yeah, I mean, shout.
It just goes
Uh,
back to self control, controlling the mind.
no,
Just got to have that
100%.
focus. It just takes focus.
Absolutely. Focus. And speaking about, focusing the mind and the championship mindset, Austin Haverneck says, can't be a champ without a championship mentality. And that kid has it. Looking forward to watching how far he goes in his career as a martial artist and a fighter. Shout out to you, Austin.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Nate Wren is so kind. He says, I'd like to give my esteemed colleague, Adam Woods, a shout out for brightening the days of so many sports fans with his According to Woods podcast. You are too kind, but I literally would not have done it without all of you guys chiming in, both on the comments and with the likes and subscriptions on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Literally could not do it without you guys. So you guys are the real MVPs. Now, speaking of NBV type-ish, right? This fight, XFC, big stage, but you fought on big stages, right? You fought for
Yep.
LFA, the feeder league, the premier feeder league in this day and age to the UFC, where you fought in Tough Enough. The MAC events out there in Vegas are some of the biggest and brightest. Former tough enough champions have gone on to Bellator, gone on to
Unbelievable. Yep.
UFC, won championship, Invicta. Every promotion that is a notable mixed martial arts promotion has a little bit of tough enough stamp of approval in their rosters, right? But
Yeah,
this fight,
definitely.
this fight at XFC is different. So for those who are kind of wondering whether they should buy the fight or not, purchase a ticket if available, right? What would you do to convince them to see what Bad News Jared Brown is going to do come March?
Well, I mean, first things first, you can follow me on Instagram, Jared B9 on Instagram. I got highlights on there, pictures, all that good stuff. That in itself will get you hyped up for the fight because when I fight, it's exciting. There's no downtime in the fight. I go after it. If you want to see somebody get knocked out, you definitely tune in. So it's going to be great. This is my first chance to fight at home, so there's going to be a ton of my friends and family there to cheer me on. I haven't got to fight my own state yet, so that in itself, I mean, you just put a guy in front of his own crowd and his own people, and he's just going to shine. So the more pressure, the more excitement that's built around the fight, the more that I take to it. So it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I can't wait to fight in front of my friends and family for the first time. With the COVID thing, they couldn't make it to Kansas for my LFA fight, and then my first two fights being out in Las Vegas. A few of them could make it, but that's a heck of a trek. So it's gonna be great. It's gonna be exciting. I'm looking forward to it for sure. So if anything will convince you, it's just the fact that it's gonna be my very first time to fight at home in my home state. Oh, Oklahoma right there. Yeah. Sorry, that
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
camera's got me going the wrong way.
yeah.
Anyways, so if you needed any convincing, just the fact that getting a fight in my home state for the first time, I'm gonna put on for my people in my state. So, not gonna lose at home ever. So definitely gonna make it sure it's an exciting fight at home. Want to make sure, and I want XFC to stay in Oklahoma too. They're kind of looking for maybe a place to have fights regularly and stuff like that. And I want to build the scene up in my state a little bit and have a solid promotion in the state. And so I think XFC can be that promotion. So a lot of motivating factors are going into it for sure. So
No, 1000%. Now, Cassidy Nicole gives a little bit of insight. She says, "That's my baby bro. So proud of you." But she can confirm that he's been a little shit troublemaker. Ooh, damn. Shade thrown. Damn, Cassidy. Coming in with the heat, the fire. Nobody, I don't want that smoke. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
wow. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Older sister, she of course she's gonna have to find a way to rag on me a little bit.
That
She
happens.
might be a little bit of the reason for how tough I am too. We used to have knockdown, drag out brawls in the house, so it is what it is.
Hey,
She's
I want to
scrappy too.
my sister doesn't fight professionally or amateur, but like she's got into a litany of brawls herself. But I like to believe that it's like me being a wrestling fan growing up, and I put her into like the sharpshooter and the razor's edge and the
Yeah,
crossface chicken wing or whatever. So I've seen her knock out many. Like I was like, oh, this is my sister. I should defend her honor. And right as I kind of jump in, like the person's head kind of falls at my feet. I'm like, oh, she's good.
yeah,
Good. I mean, there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. I come from a tough family. Everybody in my family is a fighter, so it's just in the blood. It just comes from a little bit of it's genetic for sure. It's just the
Yeah.
way it is. When my dad's friends figured out that I was a fighter, they were not surprised. So it's just part of the DNA.
Yeah. I mean, if it's in your DNA, you can't fight. As they say, and Leanne Rhymes said on the Coyote Ugly soundtrack, you can't fight the damn moonlight. And you just went right into you bad son of a gun,
Yeah,
you, and there you are.
yeah,
Now, Art Slayton says, "Did somebody give you an oven after your fight in Vegas last year? Please
yeah. I
tell us
did.
the story, because the fuck does that
So
happen?
if you've never heard of them, this is actually a perfect opportunity for me to give them a little plug. Brava Ovens hooked me up with a sick infrared oven. So if you don't know what it is, it's like a programmable oven that hooks up to your Wi-Fi and stuff. It has like all these it's hard to explain, but it's an infrared oven and it does everything: a dehydrator, air fryer, all this stuff. And anyways, Mahoney, one of the announcers for Tough Enough, he put it on his Instagram about a week before, him cooking a burger in it. And so I told him before the fight, I was like, "Yo, you owe me a burger, dude. I expect a burger after the fight." And he was like, "We'll see." And so after I knocked the guy out, I went over there and I was like, "You owe me a burger. I told you owe me a burger." And so I was like, "I want a Brava, baby." And so Brava ended up hearing about it. I got a call from the CEO a few days later, and they sent me and my coach both a sick Brava oven, and I use it all the time. And it's probably one of the best pieces of cooking equipment I've ever had in my life. So it's pretty sweet. So check them out on Instagram, Brava. I think it's just at Brava Ovens. So
Hell yeah! Shout out to
very cool.
Bravo, man. Like
That
that's
was probably my first official sponsorship or first big sponsorship opportunity. So I'm a
I mean,
marketing whiz, man. Like you said earlier,
yeah.
Snowvid-19, Brava. Tell me what your product is. I'll get it out there. I'll make sure people know what it is.
That's what I'm saying. And again, that's to me to get people engaged that aren't in the fight culture atmosphere, and that's the mark of a true star, right? And I think that's a crucial bit of you know, just a crucial piece of the puzzle that a lot of people don't figure out when none other than Dana White is saying, hey, this is not a career, this is an opportunity. And, when a lot of fighters got a large part of their income into the six figures that they lost, from their own personal sponsorships, then floating over to Reebok, that's like I mean,
Yeah,
from tens of thousands, I mean, like hundreds of thousands to like maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000. That's, and even 50,000 compared to $350,000 just on sponsorships alone. Again, it's crucial, and that's a huge part of the puzzle. So shout out to you
for
and your
sure.
marketing savvy.
Yeah. So I always tell people if I can get in front of somebody, most of the time, I can sell who I am to them. So it's not hard whenever you're just a decent human being with a focused mindset. I feel like successful people tend to gravitate towards other successful people. So most of the time when I get in front of these CEOs and business people and stuff like that, I think that energy kind of rubs off on each other. And you can tell whenever you're around somebody and you're like, this guy's got his stuff together, or this guy doesn't have his stuff together, or this is somebody I would invest my time into, or this is somebody I kind of want to stay away from. So I feel like if you just if you have the right mindset and the right intentions going into anything, it's easy to be successful. Especially nowadays, it's easy to be successful because nobody wants to work hard anymore. And so, if you're the hardest working guy in the room all the time, then you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to be successful. So,
No, 1,000%, and Dakota Pose over on YouTube, shout out to Dakota, says super excited to watch Jared do what he does best, as am I, so shout out to you, Dakota.
appreciate it, Dakota.
Yes. And then Nate Wren says some more people need to sponsor Jared Bad News Brown. He's pretty damn entertaining to watch. Just what I've seen from this interview alone, 100%.
Man,
And
I gotta hire Nate. He's awesome, man. Appreciate it,
oh,
Nate. He does good
oh,
advice.
yeah, no, I mean, Nate Wren is somebody with Podium Sports that, most people are like, how do you get to 300 plus episodes, like since July? I'm like, yeah, because I see people like Nate Wren doing far more. Not only does he write, not only does he do interviews, he's coming out with a comic book. He's like, I mean,
Oh,
what,
sick.
just like a bunch of different things. So again, he makes me feel like I'm not doing enough. So yeah, I'll do 5 podcasts a day just to kind of figure out to be in the same kind of space as
Yeah.
Nate Wren.
That's the kind of people you want to be around. Sorry. That's the kind of people you want to be around, though. If you're always the guy, it's easy to I always say complacency is the fastest killer. As soon as you become complacent, as soon as you become okay with where you're at, like we talked about with the money earlier and stuff like that, as soon as you become complacent and you become just, satisfied, it's downhill from there. You may as well hang up the gloves and put your running shoes on and find something else to do because the dog's not there anymore. That's just the way it goes. So it's always good to surround yourself with people who are trying to do more, that are competing with you all the time in a healthy way.
Yes.
You obviously want that healthy competition in your life 24/7. So
Absolutely. Now, Macy Carter says, hardest worker I know, going to be a champ without a doubt. Absolutely, Macy.
thanks, babe.
Couldn't
That's my
ag-
girlfriend. So
Ah,
she's
shout
out
out
here
to
supporting.
Macy. Yeah, and congratulations on the graduation. Know you're going to do great things with that degree. So shout out to you for that and helping the good brother Jared Brown to sweet you. With his weight count, because those things can be complicated, and you uncomplicated it for him. So shout out to you, Mace.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome for
Yes.
sure.
Now Nate wants to know the $100 million question: are you an OU fan or an OSU fan?
Oh wait, let me get it. There you go.
Ah,
Go Pokes, baby. Go Pokes. All day, every day. Yeah, no question about it. I won't say anything bad about the Sooners, but I won't say anything good about them either.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Shade. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. But also, you've been amazing. But there's been a lot of people, both personally and professionally, that have helped you in your journey, not just as a fighter, but as a person. So, Jared, take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way, my man.
Sweet. First thing first, I have to shout out again my head coach Liddell Elliott. Um, he's a pretty sensational person, but and even I hate to say even better martial artist because he's a great guy all around. But his knowledge and his ability to understand and put together different martial arts is second to none for sure. So thanks to Liddell for everything you do for me. Again, my girlfriend Macy, couldn't really do it without her. She's awesome. I can be hard to deal with, but like most fighters. So she's great. She's great for sticking around and everything she does for me to help me get ready for fights. My team at Mountain High Performance, you guys are awesome. Appreciate everything you do for me. One of my sponsors, BAS Nutrition. If you want to get high quality supplements, make sure you holler at BAS Nutrition. Coleman Construction down out of Arizona, my biggest sponsor. You guys are awesome. Everything you guys do for me, couldn't do it without you either. Perkins Vet Clinic, if you're in Stillwater or the Oklahoma area and your pet needs any type of attention, make sure you holler at Perkins Vet Clinic. Who else? I know. Oh, Michael Dugan, one of my training partners, Michael Dugan, Aaron McKenzie down at Lovato's, BJJ and MMA. You're awesome, man. I appreciate everything you do for me. He's man, my boy Aaron, he's coming up, hopefully getting a fight soon. Definitely future LFA champ if they don't sign him to the UFC first. So keep a lookout for him. He'd be a great guy to get on this podcast too. Not that I want to tell you who or what or when, but my boy Aaron McKenzie, he's awesome. He's a great guy, great martial artist as well. So holler at him for sure.
Oh, I'm sliding into those DMs for sure. So, Aaron McKenzie, this dude's coming for you.
Yeah, he's awesome. So, all the guys down at Lovato's, BJJ, MMA, appreciate everything you guys do for me. Rafael lets me come down there and train and stuff like that. So, I got to tell him thank you as well. So yeah, no. Anybody else that I missed out, that I love you. That I'm thinking about you, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, shout out to the family, right? The Browns down there.
Yeah,
shout
mom and dad. Hey.
Yeah. Shout out to Macy.
They're probably working. My parents are workhorses, so I'm sure they're working right now. They'll catch you later.
Well, just so you know, yeah, and that's the thing. This is live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch right now. So again, you can catch that on the replay. Just saying.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yes. Now, obviously, a fighter can never have too many sponsors, too many followers and fans, right? So for those who want to see you as you make your walk to the XFC cage, where can they find you, good sir, on social media?
Follow me on Instagram at JaredB9. That's JaredB9 on Instagram. Make sure you follow me there. That's where I post most of my content at. And then, of course, on Facebook, you can look me up, Jared Bad News Brown. That's my Facebook page, or just Jared Brown. Both of those will have most of my updates on it and stuff like that. But definitely hit me on Instagram. That's where I post the most entertaining stuff and the best clips and footage. So that's where you want to be for sure.
Hell yes, hell yes. And again, like
And
I
if you
said,
really
okay,
want my good stuff, we haven't talked about this yet, but
go
I'm
ahead.
a big video gamer. So if you want to add me on Discord, it's BNB_145. If you want to add me on Apex Legends, it's Bad News Brown 145. And then Rocket League, it's Dilly Dilly 145. So there you go. Now you got the connects. Hit me up on Rocket League or Apex Legends. We'll get it for sure.
Hell yes. Which I gotta ask, PlayStation or Xbox? Which
I'm
you
a
floating with?
PC guy, baby. I got the PC. Yeah.
Whoa!
I'm serious about it, man.
Yeah!
That's my pastime. That's the only thing I do to take a break or do anything else. So yeah, I just got a PC this year. Actually, it's been huge. I love
Hell
it.
yes! That's a game
Yeah,
changer. Game changer.
yeah,
Which
definitely.
to Nate Wren, he says, I look forward to seeing what the both of you do next. Now, I can't appreciate you
Thanks, Nate.
enough, Nate. Yeah, absolutely. And go ahead and follow Podium Sports on all of their social media to see what literary masterpieces come from the mind of Nate Wren. So shout out to you, good sir. And Alexa Powell saying, Bad News Brown. Hell yes.
Appreciate it, Alexa.
Yes. And Noah Latshaw says, shirts coming soon. And
Oh
again,
yeah, we will. Here, I'll give you all a little preview of the t-shirts. They're sick t-shirts. So you'll definitely want to get you one.
yes.
Let's see here. This will probably work.
Woo! I love it.
There you go.
There
Yeah,
it is.
t-shirts coming out soon, so make sure you snag you one. They'll be limited quantities, so you want to be the first one to get your order. And you can hit me up on Instagram about a t-shirt if you want one.
Hell yes. And nobody asked for free shirts, damn it. There's a reason why. Yeah, no free
Yeah,
shirts. If you really want to support the person, and I know hard times happen, but the best way to go ahead and Patreon and support one is to not ask for any discount, not ask for any freebies. Just go ahead and put your hard-earned cash to somebody that you believe in, that you want to support, and that is the best way. In a time where voting almost kind of doesn't matter, well, put your vote behind Jerry Bad News Brown, and
for
you
sure.
can thank us both later.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you want something free, come find me in person. I'll give you a handshake. We can have a chat or something, but I appreciate the
Yes.
support if not.
Yes, absolutely. Jackie Gomez says, good luck, Jared. Shout out to
Thanks,
you.
Jackie. Appreciate it.
Yes. Carlin says, just hearts, Mario
Thanks,
Yamasaki.
Pines.
Yes, and never give away what you can sell. No, that's a great marketing tip, Nate.
Definitely.
So you're the MVP, and as always, great job. You're too kind, but again, you guys are kicking ass, and if you haven't
Adam
already done,
Woods.
oh, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. But again, thank you guys for going ahead and joining us here at According to Woods. Jared, couldn't thank you enough and wishing you nothing but good skill. But I think CM Punk said luck is for losers, so you don't need luck. You got the skill to pay the bills, my man. So can't wait to see
Appreciate
you
it.
in that XFC cage, right? But
Yeah, yes, sir.
for those of you who haven't already done so, we warmly encourage you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast. Yes, on Facebook and Twitch, but the reason this guy can get paid is YouTube, right? So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Exactly. I mean, Jared,
I
you're,
got you, man.
yeah, I appreciate it. But I mean, you're subscribed, right?
Oh, of course. Of
Hell
course.
yes.
Stay subscribed.
Absolutely.
Always.
So again, be like Bad News Jared Brown and go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast. And I mean, be like Prime Athletics. Shout out to Prime Athletics, the one and only sponsor. But again, you want to have some people around you at the top, so be like Prime Athletics. There's never enough sponsors. So if you want to go ahead and support this channel, well, you can do so. So get in those DMs. But Jared, again, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother.
And no worries, no worries. And thank you guys. This has been According to Woods. And if you don't believe me or Jared, which I don't know why you wouldn't, well, maybe here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zhang to convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe.